This is the Dry Diaries with your author, Alex Dry.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Alex Dry, and I am back with another entry of the Dry Diaries. Today, I'm so excited because I have somebody on the podcast that I admire so much, but also he's just such a genuine person, Jonathan.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited. And thank you for saying that. Holy crap. Thank you. Yeah.
So he is a medium and he's helped solve a lot of national cases alongside of the FBI. He's also worked with a ton of celebrities and he has a podcast, which I just listened to. And your intro song reminded me of the song Espresso. Has anyone told you that?
No, no.
The beat is just like it.
Oh my God. Now I have to tell my producers that. Because they gave me like the truth is they're gonna hate to hear this, but they sent me so many songs and I closed my eyes and I scrolled and I stopped
Yeah.
and I was like, that's the one I'm doing. And they're like, that's a great song. I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. And I haven't heard it just because there were so many. He gave me like a log, like a whole thing. I was like, I can't do this. I'm like, I can't. It's too much for me.
No, I was listening to it in the beginning. I started singing Espresso and I was like, am I crazy? Does this actually match up? And I think it does. Whenever you listen to it, start singing Espresso.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to now.
But alongside of your career, it's so funny because we met on social media back
Yeah,
during COVID. I think
yeah,
it was.
I think so too.
We just were in a few like conversations back and forth. And I didn't really think about the fact that you're a medium. I think that I saw whenever we followed each other that you had medium in your name, but it wasn't until later that I obviously you did like the Gabby Petito case and all of that. And so I was seeing everything that you were posting, but I was just like, okay, me, I love spiritual stuff. And then finally, I reached out to you. It was like years later, and I was like, "Hey, Jonathan, I hate to ask you this, but can I get on your wait list to do a reading?"
Yeah. No, it's funny because when we met, you wanted to set up other people for readings. Like you weren't even thinking about yourself. There's like so many people that you're like, can you do this for them, for this for them? Just one quick second, like they're suffering. And I think that's really awesome because, a lot of people obviously, if they're into mediums, they want a reading, whatever. But
Mhm.
not many people are like, I want to give it to this person or this person or this person. They all kind of want it for themselves. And I,
Yeah.
I thought that was really actually unique and different. Just I don't really see that too often with people. Just like in general, like I don't
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah, and it wasn't until finally I was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna reach out and ask him," and I don't even know if you know this, so we scheduled this was, like, years later after we met, a couple years, and we scheduled a call for, let's say it was, like, a Tuesday, and then you had messaged me and you're like, "Hey, Alex, I'm gonna have to move it, something came up, and let's do it on Thursday." And it was so crazy because I was so upset, like, selfishly, because I was just so excited, and I was like, "I really wanna do this reading." That Tuesday was actually when I went through a breakup,
Oh,
and so then we did it on Thursday, and so I was like, "Honestly, I think it's my spirit guides are pushing this back," and it was like a meant to be situation, and so, obviously, I was thankful for it, like, post after that, but yeah, it was really
right.
cool.
Yeah, it's funny. I hear a lot of situations where I'm pretty bad at this stuff now when I have to reschedule people just because, things will come up, I get sick, or just like in general with like working on these cases now, they've taken a whole life of its own. So when the police or the feds or anyone calls me, it's like, I want to do like I want to help like everyone. So and then I get like pulled onto a case and then it starts progressing fast and I'm like, holy crap, I have to do this, I have to move this person. But a lot of times people will be like, let's say, like, same with you, I had it on a Tuesday and then I push them to like maybe next Tuesday. And in that time, something like tragic, unfortunately, will happen or something big will happen. And they're like kind of thankful that it was pushed because if it wasn't, then like maybe they wouldn't have wanted done the reading or it would have been like a year or so wait again, like, or whatever. And I just hear so much of that. And I'm like, it can't be a coincidence. I don't know. Like, it's just so weird.
No, I feel like it's not a coincidence. I feel timing is, everyone says like timing's everything, but I think honestly it really is. And things that are supposed to happen in due timing. And you don't even realize it because you're just you and doing what you do. But then cut to whenever it happens in that period of time, whenever those things occur, it's like, oh, whoa, like there was a reason why I was caught up in this situation and I had to postpone something or whatever it may be.
Right. Yeah, it's just nuts, like, and it sucks because I always wish when I push it off and in that time something good happens, not something bad happens, but most of the time it's something unfortunate that happens and they're like, "It's good timing to talk to you," but however, like, that happened. I'm like, "Oh, shit."
I mean, I was grateful for it because, for me, going through a breakup is a sad thing at the time. Whenever you look back, it's a good thing. Also, congratulations. You just got married, right?
I did, yeah. I just got married. We got married the end of September. And it was great, then we went on the honeymoon and all that, and then, like, in the interim of that, like, obviously, like, cases still will go on, and she was getting so mad because I was on my phone, I was, like, trying not to be on my phone, and it was a whole thing, but it was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah, congratulations. I didn't even know that you were in a relationship. You probably have to keep it kind of private, right? Because of what you do. And
Yeah, it got to a point, like, where, like, people start to know who I was a little bit, and she was the one who was like, "I don't want anyone to, like, know me." She's like,
Mhm.
"I wanna stay, like, off the grid." And I was like, "Are you sure? And I don't want you to think I'm not, like, posting you or talking about you. I don't want that." And she was just like, "Listen, like, that's not the world I'm in," because she's not in the entertainment space at all.
Okay.
So she works a corporate job, and she's like, "I just don't want that." And then when I start bringing her to LA and to these meetings with, like, agency meetings and things like that, she started to get a little bit more comfortable with some of it. So when a news source reached out to do a piece on the wedding, I was like, "Are you sure?" And she was like, "Yeah, like this will be my first like whatever."
Coming out.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like, "All right." I was like, "Whatever you want to do." I'm like, "I only want to make you comfortable. Like that's like the biggest thing." But then when the podcast started progressing a little bit, where like it was getting like national attention and stuff, and then I went on Access Hollywood, people started finding out who she was.
Mhm.
So people found out her number and people were
Oh,
texting her
no.
number, like trying to get in contact with me. We woke up one morning, I just got back from the gym and she's like, I have like 100 texts from people.
Oh
Like,
my
and
gosh.
it was the following morning from when they aired the Access Hollywood segment. And these people must have found out, I don't know how, because I never shared her name. But then the New York Times article was out. So I think people could maybe find out. Yeah, it was a little bit of an adjustment, I think, for the both of us, because that's when I felt like I needed to protect her more because I didn't want people to. I mean, you know how it is on the internet, and you know how it is with like people. They can say some horrible things just because they're having a bad day. Like they're having a bad day, so they want to hurt someone else. Hurt people hurt other people. So I don't know. It was a weird adjustment, and we're still getting used to it, I will
Yeah.
say, but it's amazing though. But thank you for bringing that up. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And over the years, I mean, I've seen your career progress so much. It's so crazy.
Thank you.
I'm sure for both you guys, everyone wanting access to you and your gift. And that like brings me into, I have like so many questions. So we're going to kind of get
Give them to me.
into
Yeah.
the Dear Diaries confessions. The first question, since we were just talking about relationships, this is a personal question. It wasn't asked by anybody, but
Yeah, give it to me.
so, whenever you meet people, even when you're dating or in relationships or just friendships in general, there's a thing whenever you meet someone with their energy or your intuition of, okay, is this person using me? Is this person being genuine? Or what do they want? And so, with your gift, do you get those feelings or is it something that you turn off and on? Or is it more so that people, that have passed away come to you and it's not really a feeling for yourself that you get, if that makes sense.
No, no, it does, and I do think it kinda mixes everything. There was one time, um, this is gonna sound bad, but I never like, I can't turn this off, right? But I've learned to ignore it, I think is the best way I can explain it now to people. So I was dating someone years ago, and this is, like, kind of when I came to terms with what I can do, I think, a little bit. So I was sharing it a little more with people. I was still skeptical to even tell people, but so I told her and she was not into it, whatever. And she made it like abundantly clear, whatever. But we still continue to date. There was one night where we were just watching TV. Like I'm not joking. I'll never forget this. We were just watching TV. And all of a sudden her grandfather who passed away came through and kept showing me a name. And I'll use Frank as like the name. And he kept showing me like Frank. And I'm like trying to ignore it, trying to ignore it. Then eventually I turn to her and I go, "Yeah, weird thing." I'm like, "Who's Frank?" And she turned white like a ghost. I've seen it like a couple times before with like, doing readings and stuff. But like she really looked like she saw like 7 ghosts like in a row, like doing horrific things. And then at that point I knew something was up. I'm like, all right, like that's not a typical reaction most of the time.
Yeah.
And so I said to her again, I was like, "Is everything okay?" I'm like, "Who's Frank?" And then I guess she felt like she got caught without me even like kind of pressing her. And she's like, "Frank is
Oh,
2 X's." So not the X before, but the one
okay.
before. And she's like, "I was just at his house last night and we were like like kind of like rekindling like the conversations and like talking." And then that was the only time where I was like, holy crap, I can't do this anymore. But I do just in general speaking, like meeting people and like whatever, I don't read them because how I would get a feeling most of the time is connecting to like a family member or a friend or someone.
Right.
But I can get a sense also too if someone is genuine versus, they're not genuine or they have an ulterior motive or whatever. But that one instance with my ex-girlfriend, like, a while ago, I'm like I freaked myself out. I was like, "What the hell?" Like, I was like, I'm like, "Is this real? Did I just catch her from her dead grandfather? What the
Oh my
hell?" Like,
gosh.
so weird. It was so weird. But yeah,
That's what I'm
it
like,
can
I wish I
tell.
had your ability because I feel like it
Uh,
would have saved me in so many situations.
yeah, it probably would've, but it, like, also, like, jades you with people too because then
Yeah.
your guard is, like, kind of always up. And, like, sometimes I'm too hard on people too because I've been seeing things just, like, from obviously the medium side, but then also going through things, and then my guard is just I always think people come to speak to me with an ulterior motive before they even, like, say anything, which is, like, so wrong of me, which I'm trying to do that less now, like, way less.
But I think that is a natural thing, with
Yeah.
people wanting access to your gift to kind of have that guard up. I don't think that's wrong. It's just people,
It's true, it really is true.
unfortunately.
Really freaking is, honestly.
Yeah. But speaking of your, gift of mediumship, so I kind of know the story because we kind of chatted about it before. But for people who don't know, and I've actually explained this to some of my friends because they've asked about you or we were talking about you and they were a little bit skeptical. And I was like, honestly, just go listen to one of his podcast episodes, and he explains how he knew from a really young age because we kind of got into the subject of, are you born with this or is this something that you can take on over time? And whenever we spoke about it, I had a situation that occurred with me with my grandmother, and you said some people do have the gift. It's just whether that they tap into it or not, or how strong it is.
Yeah.
And so with you and your gift, you were born with it and you had inklings of it from a really young age.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
will you kind of tell us like a brief story of
Yeah, of
yeah.
course. So like, use this reference for people, like, everyone can sing, but not everyone can sing like Frank Sinatra.
Mhm.
I always try to give that analogy to people because I feel like that's, like, the easiest way to kind of explain. But when I was, really young, my aunt passed away when I was about 6 months old. So, like, just like most people, I'm assuming in their families or just like in their life, when they lose a family member, there's pictures and around the house, and like, people always talk about them. But when I was about 4 years old, it was Easter Sunday, I'm pretty sure. My grandfather, so Susan is my mom's youngest sister, and she passed away from cancer, but she passed away young. She was probably 29, 30,
Oh,
or
wow.
something. Yeah, so they were, like, super tight, like, best friends. They lived together, and even when she was sick, she lived with my mom and my dad in their house. So, like, they were that close. So, yeah, so it was Easter Sunday. I was around 4, I would probably say, and I go up to my grandfather, their father, and I go, "Susie's here." And my grandfather, he's like, "Yeah, sure, totally," like, "Whatever." Like, "Yeah, that's cool, you have imagination." And I started getting, like, really angry because I was, like, really seeing her, but then, no fault of my parents. They dressed me in, like, denim on denim, so I was, like, wearing a Canadian tuxedo, and I kept
Fashionable
pulling at
from a
right?
young age.
I right? I kept pulling at the shirt and saying, "Susie's wearing this, like, Susie's wearing this." And my grandfather was just like, "What the hell is this kid saying?" And my mom's other sister, who's still living, she was like, "What's going on?" So my mom walks around the corner because, like, the kitchen was in the other like, on the other side of the wall, and she starts crying, just starts crying, and everyone is like, "What's going on?" So my mom explains the story, like, after the funeral happened. I should backtrack. So they used to steal clothes from each other, right? And there was a denim jacket that they would steal back and forth from each other. Like, there was this one particular denim jacket. So after the funeral happened and everyone was going to their cars to go to the cemetery, my mom kind of beelined it back in and put the denim jacket on her in the casket, so when she was buried in it, that she was warm and that it was like a sentimental thing for her, but also she didn't tell anyone. She wanted it to be like her thing only. Like, that was her thing that she didn't want to tell anyone, not her other sister, not her parents, no one. No one needed to know that. So when she explained that as she was crying, my grandfather, like, looked at me and he's like, "What's wrong with this kid?" Like, he's like, "What the like, as I was getting older and stuff, I was still seeing a lot of not just her, but then it starts turning into, like, people like, friends of mine, like, their family and, like, things about them, and I started learning things about my family that I shouldn't have known at such a young age, like, horrible things and just things like that. So when I hit, like, my teenage years, I was just like, "I'm gonna continue to, wrestle, play lacrosse, party, do, like, what we perceive as normal." And then when I was going off to college, I had preseason for lacrosse, and I turned to my mom, and I was just like, "Is there any mental illness in the family?" Now, mind you, I haven't spoken about it in probably, like, since I was, like, 12 till 18.
That's what I was gonna say. Did you ever think that you had schizophrenia or something was going on?
That's literally what I asked her. I go, "Is there schizophrenia, like, mental illness in the family?" And she's like, "No," and she's like, "Well, I'm going to see, like, a medium. Do you want me to ask this medium if you're crazy? Like, like, if you're really, have this gift, or maybe you're crazy, like, who knows?" Like, And, I was like, I thought mediums were people with hair and then nails and the crystal ball, like, but when she went to the medium, this medium was like, "He could be crazy. I have no freaking clue. Like, you have to bring him in. I can't just, like, go off of you and, find out whatever." So, I come back for winter break in that, like, December, January time, and I go there because 'cause they're like, "Just go there." And I walk in and this medium was like, "Holy shit, you are very talented," meaning that I could see things faster and more specific or whatever. And they were like, "Do you wanna learn?" And I was like, "Hell no, I don't." I'm like, "I wanna go back to school. I wanna drink. I wanna play lacrosse. Like, I wanna do all that shit." And, so we get in the car after I say, "Absolutely not. Hell no." And, I turn to my mom. I'm like, I really should have said, "Yeah." Like, I wanna help people because for a lot of people that don't know, I was gonna play lacrosse for Army or Navy, like that, and
Mhm.
then I wanted to kind of be in the service after that and, do my part, and I couldn't because of, like, medical stuff. I also didn't wanna go to, like, the prep school of it as well, which people don't know. There's, like, Army prep and Navy prep, and you have to do 2 years there and then go to Annapolis or West Point. It's, like, such a pain in the ass, but there's medical stuff too. So anyway, I come back and my mom was actually such a big advocate of this in the fact that she would bring in friends, family, people I've never met, right? Like, friends and then their family. And then it just kind of started to, like, grow to a point where I had to make a decision. Do I stay because at that point I was out of college after I was practicing a lot, and and as it was growing, it came to a point like, do I continue to go down a certain path of work or do I turn and do this? And I had some people speak to me and I decided to do this. And it just started to snowball from there because it was all word of mouth. I never told anyone about like my real name, never told anyone anything. But that's basically the story. Like I didn't even want to do it. I was supposed to be a cop. I was in the NYPD,
Oh.
the process, the academy. Like I was, this was not part of my plan, like at all. So I don't know. When people are skeptical, I think it's rightfully so. There's a lot of people out there that I think embellish what they can do to some extent.
Yeah, I have so many random psychics that are like, "Hey, I have a message for you." I'm like, "Do you?"
Yeah, I'm like really? But I always say to people, just sit down with me for 10 minutes. Like that's what I just say to people. Don't come in with a preconceived notion essentially. Like sit down with an semi-open mind, but like give me 10 to 15 minutes. And that's all I ask. And also I tell people this too. I think a competitive standpoint of me, the police wouldn't call me if I was full of shit. Like, you know what I mean? They're the most skeptical people. I had to I had to prove myself to them, which people don't even know about. I'm crazy.
Is that a normal thing? Because I know that you've been doing a lot of cases with the FBI and CIA and all of that. Is that normal that they reach out or have mediums on the case, or is it a one-off thing?
I've been learning that it's not as uncommon as I thought as I begin to develop the relationship with them. I think people think that they find someone and they're like, let's pull this mother in and see, they test you. Trust me on that. Like they test you like a lot. And you don't even know you're being tested. That's the thing. You don't even know. And so when you get a call to work on a case, and you're like, "Oh shit, okay." And then I'm like, "How did you like know about me? Like what's going on here?" And they're kind of like, "Listen, we've been sending people to you for the past 2 years just to make sure that, giving you fake names, different people to see if you're legitimate." And they have explained a lot of it to me and now it makes sense, I guess. I'm people don't know that side of it,
Yeah.
which is like crazy.
I forgot to tell you I was undercover for them.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I wish. Honestly, I
N-
think that's so cool. There's just something really fascinating about the whole FBI, CIA world to me. And I always said in another life, I would love to be on CSI. So it's really cool that you're on the good side of things doing it because obviously what you do is really hard and I'm sure it's very energy draining, but you're not having to do the crazy behind the scenes
Yeah.
shooting or whatever
No,
they do.
no, no, I'm thankful. I really just get called in when, like, shit's, like, hitting the fan, really. I get called in when there's no other option. There kind of. In a sense, by what I mean by that is they call me in when there's no other option, right? And a case could be shelved, closed, whatever. And there's a certain amount of time that you really have by bringing in new evidence that they can really focus on that case because a lot of departments have so many different unsolved cases. They can't just focus on one case like super intently. You have to keep it open and keep it moving forward. So I get called in when they're just about to be like, hey, if we don't get anything, like this case is going to be passed along and gonna kind of be shelved. And I'm like, I wish you called
Like,
me before,
yeah.
like shit. Like
Do you physically have to see the person to read them, or can you tap into anyone's loved ones or spirit guides?
yeah, I have to just be communicating with you, if that makes
Mm.
sense, whether it's virtually or on the phone. I mean, a lot of the times when I do cases, it's like a 50-50. Some they will black the screen on a Zoom and change my voice and change my name.
Oh,
And then there's some where once I'm working on it and then the family knows, right? Then we meet each other. And like that's kind of what happened with Gabby. That's kind of like with Gabby's family. It's kind of what happened with a few others. Actually, one of the cases I'm working on is from Texas and it's a huge case. I wanted to ask you
oh, I
actually
saw
if
it.
you knew about that. Yeah, I wanted to ask you if you knew about that because that one blows my mind still. It's just one of those where I got pulled in on it and I didn't realize that some communities, I mean, you see it in movies and stuff, I guess, but how close the community is and how
Mhm.
like people won't speak up. They'll know
Yeah.
things, but they just won't speak up because it's I don't know if it's even they're protecting each other. It's just they don't want that coming in for their community. And that's what I've learned by doing this case. It was nuts.
I don't know if it's a necessarily a Texas thing, but I have seen this in Texas where it's old money.
That's yeah, that's what I didn't want to say. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's like generational wealth in a community is
Right.
what I saw. Yeah.
And I kinda grew up in a community that has sides of that. My family obviously isn't old money at all, but I've seen that happen, and I feel they wanna keep a certain persona or a certain perception, and so they don't talk about a lot of things or they don't want it to get out because then it's gonna taint the whole community in general. I might butcher this, so correct me, but there was a mom who passed away. She lived in San Antonio, for everyone who doesn't kind of know the backstory.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so her mom passed away. They're located in San Antonio, and some business deal went awry, or it had something to do with, like, the business partner, but long story short is
Mhm.
they ended up finding her in the lake, and the dad had murdered her. Is that right?
Yeah, I didn't even know that they found her, honestly, just because I've been trying to stay so far away from it.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean, to me, when I did this and when I did it, yeah, so, like, basically, long version, like, I guess, of that is Suzanne was married to someone, and they were having, like, domestic issues, right? Like, they weren't, people have issues, but, like, it was pretty evident that, it was pretty bad. So, one night, they got into a fight, and she went missing, like, just went completely missing. And like, they've been searching and they arrested him and they had enough to keep him in jail, right? And then they kept raising the bail. They just kept raising it. So to me, after I spoke to so the woman is Suzanne Simpson. And when I spoke to Suzanne's daughter, because there was a lot of things that were going on with that, it was weird because I did the recording with them on Tuesday, and then the Thursday they charged him with the murder. They charged him. They
Mhm.
had enough evidence without even finding her that
Oh, wow.
with the murder. Yeah, which is like not great. But he was putting the police on a wild goose chase. But I spoke to Chandler yesterday, and they actually had the Texas Rangers were like, we're getting so many tips from you that you need to take our like number out, our specific number. So I think if they found like them, then it wouldn't have been an issue.
So they haven't found her body?
Oh, they have not, right?
No, I thought they did, but I could be wrong. Maybe it's just my mediumship ability telling me.
It could be. I could literally Google it right now, honestly, but I don't think so. Just because when I spoke to her yesterday, she was like, "You need to take out that number."
Wow.
They're no, they haven't found. I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah, no. So I'll tell you this, like some like inside stuff about it. So he had a vacation home. I don't know if you know this area, Brendera County, Brendera like River or
Mhm.
something. But you are right about the business deal. That is like a real thing. Like the business partner was, I guess, involved to some extent, and a business deal did go kind of like they were trying to do something and it didn't work out. And Suzanne
Mhm.
was just like, give it up, kind of, and obviously caused a fight. But so they went missing, or she went missing, and he got arrested, and he's still not saying anything. He's still not sharing anything at all. So he's putting them on wild goose chases and stuff, or like kind of giving them like just like a little bit, and then it's fake. So he had someone take Suzanne's phone or his phone, I forgot which one, and put it in like a dump yard or like a landfill. And so when it pinged, they were like, all right, it's in this proximity, and he had someone put it there, so they searched for, like, 2 weeks and found nothing.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, it's been a crazy case, to say the least, and I've been trying to, like, respect Chandler, like, with what she wants to do, but, like, with what she wants edited out. It's been a little chaotic just because with these ongoing investigations and them coming on to do, like, a recording or something, the police obviously get involved because I always make sure they're okay with it. And then they're like, "You need to cut this out, this out, this out," and it's constant. Yeah, it's nuts. So, yeah, Suzanne's a big case in Texas that's been going on, and I feel so bad for the family. My heart breaks for them
Yeah.
tremendously.
Okay, so we're gonna get into a few of the questions. Okay, so I'm really big into conspiracies and spirituality. So my question is, do you think our world is multidimensional or there's portals into other realms?
And that's a good question. I mean, if people know me, and I'm sure you could probably attest to this, honestly. I'm probably the least like spiritual person, even though I'm like a medium and stuff. Like as far as like, the crystals and all that, stuff. But when it comes to the portal stuff, I've spoken to people that have like worked on like the Unsolved Kate show for Netflix. And there was an episode about a guy that was like, I don't want to say the word possessed, but he was like connecting to someone and then he was like going to these places and showing them things that they didn't even know that was confirmed. And then they were bringing up the portal stuff and how like there's a certain spot in this area where like energy can like really cycle through fast.
Mhm.
So I do think there could be some element to it. I've never experienced it. So like it's hard for me to wrap my head around it. When I'm speaking to these people that created the show, boots on the ground filming and telling me stuff, it's kinda hard not to believe it.
Was it in Antarctica?
I think it was in the UK. It was in an old, like, not a castle, but like an old, like, kind of like castle or something like that, and they were sharing stuff, and then they bring him to Ireland, and same thing, like, it was bizarre,
Wow.
the stuff that they were sharing with me. I was, like, sitting there scratching my head being the skeptic in me is, like, kinda starting to, like, turn with that, so I do think there's some element to it for sure.
Was he a time traveler or he just would take on other energies in different places?
So supposedly there was I forgot the woman's name. Her name was like Becca or something, but there was this one woman who he would connect to, and she would tell him information about like randomly. So like he couldn't control it. So like it would come in the wave. And he did stuff where they showed me footage and also told me that he would walk into a spot and then he would literally in a random spot walk to like a tree, let's say, and he was like, 2 people were killed here and, like, took their own lives. And it was in a cemetery at a random tree, and there's multiple trees. Turns out that 2 people took their own lives at that specific tree. They were able to validate it. And there's, like, so many other things, and then he said that it was this woman, Becca, who, like I'm like, "Dude, like, that's fucking crazy. I never heard of that." Like, that's nuts. Yeah, so I
That's
think
so
there is some
crazy.
level of portals potentially.
Yeah, I also think that there's time travelers and people think I'm crazy.
What do you believe about UFOs then? Do you believe, like, about the UFO stuff and, like, aliens?
I do, but I think that there's more undiscovered or some sort of alien type life under the ocean than there is beyond our galaxy.
Mhm.
I do believe in aliens to a certain extent because, like Bob Lazar and like
Oh, yeah, yeah.
all those different things. And I just
Mhm.
don't understand why someone would make such a elaborate story up and put his life on the line and his family's life on the line for no reason. So I think there is some truth behind it, but I don't think that we really know the extent. I think that they've done research and they have more information than they're telling us, obviously, like a lot of things. But I just have to believe that there's more life than just us.
This. Yeah,
This.
Snooki is, like, a huge believer in the UFO stuff and aliens. She is, like, convinced. You should have her come on and, like, talk about it. Like, she would go off on this
Oh, I would
stuff.
love that. I
Yeah,
just I can go on
Snooki's
and on.
yeah, Snooki will or Nicole will she believes in this a lot. She
Yeah.
came on my show and was, like, questioning me about aliens. I'm like, "Nicole," I'm like, "What's going on here?" Like, and she really believes in it. Like, she really, really does. I do too. I think there's more out there than like, we can't be it. Like, that's
Yeah.
just my mind. Like, we can't be the only things out there.
Whenever you connect to people or past loved ones, you also connect to just spirit guides in general. It doesn't have to be a past loved one of yours, or does it?
So, like, most of the time from, it typically does, yeah. So, like, long version short, yeah, it typically does. And I've learned there's other spirit guides, I guess, but no one will care more about you than your family.
Mm, okay.
Li you know? Like,
Yeah.
even if you did not have a good relationship with someone, unfortunately, when you go to the other side, you recognize maybe some of the like, a lot of what you did could be wrong, but their intentions are always pure because, like, they drop all that when they go to the other side. I see the best versions of people, and they explain to me the things that they did wrong potentially. So it's like
Mm,
your family will always wanna be the one to protect you the most. Even close friends too, but people that are in your life,
yeah.
you know?
So, do you believe in heaven and hell? Like, have you ever connected someone that's not a better place? That's
It's hard because, like, I've connected obviously to like people that have committed murders and, and to me those are like like one of the most horrible people and stuff, obviously. But to me, from what I've learned from doing this and speaking to other like credible mediums out there and, whatever, there's like different levels, right? Of like the afterlife. And I don't know how many. Like I'll go with like seven, right? I'm just gonna use my like a lucky number seven. But the higher you are on there, the more content you are to not come back again, right? So it's like the higher you are, you don't need to come back here. You feel like you've accomplished what you accomplished and all that stuff. So that's heaven. The first level is typically the people that did really not so great stuff. And they have to watch and witness the people that they've hurt and affected. So it's like two groups, right? It's typically your family and who you hurt and affected and their family. And it's like you have to always so when you come back, it's like giving you have to redo. It's so to me, I guess there could be a type of like heaven and hell, I guess, if you think about it. Cause like I said, the higher up you are, you're not really dealing with that. You're dealing with the good and seeing your family thrive and trying to help them. So I don't know. I can't say there's like a definite heaven and hell, but I know that there's different levels, I guess, just because of sometimes people don't want to come back. They're like content.
yeah.
They're like, we've accomplished so much. We're good.
Which is so funny because even when I spoke to you, my grandmother came through, which makes so much sense just because she was so loud, outgoing, just has a lot to say all the time. And then my grandfather, which is my mom's dad, he was very just calm, collective. I feel like when he passed, his passing was very peaceful.
Oh, that's it. That's the best. You can't ask for anything better.
He has never come through anytime I've done a reading. And I also have
Ye-
never really felt him or his presence. Whereas like my grandmother, I feel her all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you want
Yeah.
now, mama? Like,
He Yeah, no, it's typically the personalities will kind of stick with you because, like,
yeah.
I'll describe people's personalities as I'm doing readings, like being like someone's like crazy talkative, outgoing, loud, someone's stoic, they're kind of like too much of a straight shooter, very cynical or whatever. And they're like, that's literally X, Y, and Z. They're like, they were the most cynical person or they were the most loud. Like they would walk into a room and like, let's get the party started. Like, let's start drinking,
Mhm.
let's start having fun and stuff. So I do believe that you carry a personality to the other side. So if you're like more reserved or just cool, calm, collective, that's how you're going to be there. It's just that's your personality.
So do you think that there is such thing as past lives or reincarnation or no?
I'm going to have to say, yeah, I do believe that. I believe like people come back. I believe like just from hearing it from other people too. And, I've spoken to, there's like a famous, case where a kid this was on Netflix as well too, like, basically described who he was in, like, World War II and, like, gave names and everything, and it was all fact checked, like, everything was fact checked. He went to the site, told him that's where the plane crashed. That like, these people's names were there with me.
Wait, what is this called? I need to watch it.
I forgot what the name is. I was connected to it by a friend of mine, Kate Casey. She connected me to this person because she interviewed them. They have a book and stuff, and they were on Netflix too. I think it was similar to like the Unsolved type of shows, but it's on Netflix.
You'll just have to send it to me later because I want to know.
Yeah, it's crazy. And the kid was giving names of people from like 80 years ago. Like crazy, crazy,
Yeah.
crazy, crazy.
There's been a couple of videos. I don't even think it was documentaries. It might have been TikTok. So like, you don't know how credible TikTok is all the time. But the mom was saying that her little boy in the back seat and they were driving and they passed an area where her sister had passed away in a car wreck. They think that he was reincarnated or came back as
Mhm.
a little boy, but was his sister. The way
Oh,
that he was
wow.
describing it, he was like, "Oh, this is where I wrecked. This is the car
Oh,
crash."
wow.
Like, basically saying things that alluded to the fact of, like, how would you know this? You're so young, and it really freaked them out, and I think there's, like, a few more things that happened after that that just was, "This is too coincidental to not be," and when she passed, her sister was actually pregnant with him. So, kind of crazy, but yeah, I think that there are past lives for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can some people believe that you can come back as, like, an animal.
Oh, that I have no idea about.
I have no idea about that. I personally don't think so, but then I look at my dog and I'm like, "You look like a human."
Yeah, like,
I'm like, "Who
what?
are
Yeah.
you? Like, who were you?
Yeah.
Your eyes look too real." Like, you
Yeah,
have to be a
yeah,
there has to be a little human inside of you
yeah.
in his personality, but,
Yeah.
yeah, I just think that that whole subject is so interesting.
It is, and it's just, like, when, like, kids say it, there's obviously some kids with imagination, but then there's kids that, like, they're too pure to make shit up, right? Like, sometimes they're just too pure to be like I always tell people the younger you are, the more open you are because you have no real life, things going on and you don't have people being like, "Yo, that's full of shit. This isn't normal." And then they're telling you stuff and then all of a sudden it's like the cap goes on because it's like real life stuff starts to happen and they start like realizing like kind of what I was when I was younger, like kind of realizing that I'm like, this shit's not normal, man. This is like not normal. But it is interesting because in this day and age, and maybe you can attest to this too, I just feel like a lot more people are more open and spiritual than they've ever been. At least that's what I've noticed. Since COVID happened, it's been like an insane shift just with people in general.
Mhm. Which I think is cool, people being more open and receptive to it because there is a lot of things out there that if we just open our mind, then we can embrace everything that there is. Which is funny that you're talking about younger kids being more open to it because my sister, she had a baby like a year ago
Oh, that's awesome. Congrats.
and she's so cute. But she has a little stuffed monkey, and my mom was babysitting her, and my mom is convinced that Honey, my sister's daughter, has some sort of gift.
Yeah, it's so young, and then once they start talking, that's when you really know. You
Yeah,
know
so
what I
she
mean?
has a monkey. She named her monkey Bob, which was my grandfather's name, and my sister's like, I've never read her a book that has Bob in it. Like, Bob isn't really a common name these days, and so my mom's like, "It's your grandfather, it's your grandfather." So she was asking her, "Honey, where's Bob?" And she looks up and she points to the sky, which is so crazy, and she's n just turned 1.
Oh my god, then yeah, she's like the most pure and the most open.
Yeah. So, is there any more cases that you're working on that you can talk about?
Yeah, so I worked on the Richard Patrone and Daniel Imbo case. So it's a 20-year-old unsolved in Philly, and I worked closely with like journalists and then the FBI. The Long Island serial killer case I've been a part of, and it's still ever evolving. And the Hannah Kobayashi, the Suzanne case. I just actually for one of my upcoming episodes on my show, we did one in a small town in Missouri. Like they reached out.
How many are you working on at one time?
So I used to just try to do like 2 to 3 because like you don't really know how involved you're gonna get at a certain point. And then sometimes it takes months or like it takes sometimes a long time or sometimes it just unravels fast.
Mm.
Fortunately, I've been taking on a shit ton. I will probably say but it's hard for me not to because like when they reach out, I don't want to say no. I try not to spread
Yeah.
myself too thin, but if families and law enforcement are coming to me and they're like they want help, I'm not going to say no. Like I can't say no. There's no way.
Is it at a certain point, because for me, I'm a Sagittarius. So I'm just, when my social battery's dead, it's dead.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Does it just take so much energy out of you? And to what point are you like, okay, I need to step away and take a break? But can you even turn that off to take a break?
That's a good question. I get myself, like, physically sick from doing it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, my social battery definitely gets, filled up pretty fast from doing this stuff, like with the Unsolved and, things like that, and I get physically sick. I went blind in my left eye for, like, a few hours from it.
Wow.
I've like, the simple flu turned into something, like, super severe, things like that where, when I continuously push my body from doing this, because I try to explain to people, like, imagine you have a small muscle you don't really work out all the time, and if you're constantly doing it, it's like, yeah, like, you build up to a certain point, but it's still such a small muscle you don't really use, like, you use your arm or your legs or something. So, it's been, obviously, I've built, a little bit of strength there, but it's still I still get drained pretty quick on, so sometimes I'll just like, between you and I'll just be like, "This, I need a week," like,
Yeah.
because like, I don't stop, and then even on my week off, and I'll plan it in advance, whatever, I still put people in, I still take cases on because, like, I can't say no. Like, it's a horrible thing to I just wanna help. That's, like, my biggest thing, I just really wanna help, and I feel like if I have this ability and I can help, I'm gonna push myself in that way to help people.
Yeah, it's also the fine line of helping people and then protecting yourself
I
too.
know. I know, I need to learn that a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to learn that a little bit better. I've been pretty bad at that.
But I do think it's cool that you wanted to go into the police force at, like, since an early age, and then it kinda took a turn, and you are working with the police, but it's just another type of working with them than you probably thought from a young age.
Yeah, yeah, it's a trippy thing, and, like, I the people that I was referencing that I said that, like, kinda spoke to me to go down that path were 2 high-level NYPD officers that, like, worked for the NYPD. Yeah, they were the ones because I was going through the process. I was, academy ridden, like, all that stuff, and they encouraged me to go home and to come home and to see my family and not to worry about, like, am I gonna see my kids grow up? And it kind of rang true a little bit to me where I'm like, shit, like, if I go on the job at a certain point, you just don't know. You just don't know. I mean, you don't know if you walk out your house what's gonna happen, essentially, people will say, but
Do you ever get scared whenever you're working on cases that there may be repercussions from cases you're trying to solve if the people or someone's still out there?
I definitely do. I try to be very careful when I speak to police and I feel like I'm protected and stuff, I do my readings in a very specific way, so I'm not pointing fingers at people. I will always say you should chat with them again. Just give them a chat again, or you should, things like that where I will never point a finger because if they ever get the recording from the police, if that ever stuff ever comes out, I don't want them to be like, "This kid definitely said that." It's like you c
Yeah.
I won't ever do that because I wanna protect myself.
So we're gonna dive into Dear Dry Diaries. Basically, the way that it works is I put on my Instagram, people can submit questions anonymously. This time I didn't do it anonymously because I posted that we were chatting, and people don't really need to be anonymous with questions to ask you. So there was so many questions that came through. A lot were very personal, which when I was talking to Jonathan about doing this interview, we wanted to kind of get behind the scenes, not more so do readings. So I curtailed some of the questions and made them more generic.
I could take some of your listeners and do, like, a fan listener thing on my show too if, like, people are struggling. You can just give me their first name, you don't have to tell me anything, and you can just give me their first name, and I can send it to my producer, and if people are really struggling, I wanna help. So if they wanna come on for 10 minutes, I'll do it for them.
Thank you.
Of course.
And it's crazy because he has like a 3-year wait list. So you guys get
Yeah.
the exclusive.
Yeah. Very fortunate. Yeah, very, very fortunate.
When I reached out to you, you were like, yeah, my wait list is 3 years. I was like, what?
Yeah, It's nuts. I feel bad for my mom. She has to deal with all that stuff. So yeah, it's
Oh, I know. I remember. I think you said it on the podcast I listened to, but you get so many people writing in, and the way that you filter through is your mom chooses for you, which I thought was really
yeah,
sweet.
yeah. Whoever has a heartfelt story, send it. My mom will pick you.
Yeah. No, but that's sweet that you have her because your mom has discernment and she's protecting you, so she's gonna give you the best.
Yeah, yeah. It's true. It's true.
Okay, so the first question, Dear Dry Diaries, my grandma recently passed away and I haven't felt her presence or received any signs from her. How can I know if she's at peace or in a better place? I think we kind of just touched on this earlier, but
Yeah. Yeah, it kinda goes back to they're always around you, that's first and foremost, and I hope everyone knows that, and they'll show you signs in their own specific way, and you just have to keep your eyes a little bit more open,
mhm,
for them, and that's how you can know they're at peace if you need that validation, but m most of the time, like I said, probably like 99 or 100% of the time, they come through in their best version all the time, and they're at
mhm.
peace and they're okay. So my heart goes out to you and your family, but she's definitely doing okay. I promise you. I promise.
Dear Dry Diaries, I started following Jonathan after seeing you post about him, and he's truly doing amazing work with his gift. How can I schedule a reading with him, and is he accepting new clients?
W That's so nice. Thank you. I am accepting new clients. You can just go to my website, jonathanmark.net, and just send an email. I'm always accepting new clients, it's tough. We were just, like, kinda talking about it's like I can't spread myself too thin, so I've been really trying because people are getting super pissed that they've been waiting for a long time. Trust me, I get DMs from people, they're like, "What the dude, it's been 3 years." So, I'm trying to do more where I'm involving people in different ways so they're able to get a reading.
Do you do group readings?
So, I used to, but now because it's all over the country and the world, it's, like, hard to do. So, part of the stuff that when I'm working with a new team now, we're doing live or we're going to, I haven't announced yet, but we're going to do like live like podcast recordings. And in those podcast recordings, I am going to do like the typical like readings for people. So I'm going to bring like cases on, celebrities on, stuff like that.
Next question. Dear Dry Diaries, I've been consistently seeing numbers like 222, 444, and 555 on my phone every day. I've looked up their meanings, but how do you know if it's truly a sign to pay attention to or is it just a coincidence? Honestly, this happens to me all the time.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think if you see it repetitively, then it's a sign. If you're seeing all these numbers, like these sequence of numbers, like you said, 111, 333, 555, typically those are signs that, for one, there's like people around you, but I don't know the angel number like meaning of sorts of things, but I do know that those are signs. Like I do know that for a fact, only because like I've heard from experience from people like that the sign would happen, the meaning, and then maybe a few months later, like stuff kind of aligned to what those numbers are. I would say if you're not planning to see them. So if you're not like if you're driving and a license plate cuts you off and it's 555. If you pay for something and the change is 555. Those are the signs. But if you're actively looking for it and you're constantly on the look, then you're kind of placing it where because that's not how signs work. Signs work when you're least expecting it. It's supposed to give you like a wave of like an emotion, essentially. And if you're like constantly on the look or the hunt for it, then and you're piecing things together, like if you're like, oh my God, it's 111, and you know that it's 110 turning to 111 or 1111, like you know what I'm saying? You can't plan those.
Yeah. I would say for me, I always, or recently, I would say the past probably like 4 months, 5 months, it happens at least every other day. I pick up my phone and it's always 444 or 555. So I started screenshotting it whenever it happens. And then I'm like, okay, is this a sign? How many times has this happened? And then I go and look up the meaning. So I think from what I've read, 444 means that your loved ones, spirit guides, angels are protecting you around you and they're just showing you love and that they're there with you. And then 555 means that they are giving you a sign that something is coming up that's going to bring you fulfillment and success.
Right.
Obviously, there's different meanings out there for all of them, but when I looked it up, that's what it meant. So I would definitely, for the person who asked this, take it as a sign if it's happened consistently.
Yeah, and if you're not, like, actively seeking it too. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Setting your alarm
don't
so
do
at
that.
4:44
Yeah,
it
don't do
pops
that.
up.
Avoid that.
That's so funny. Okay, last question. Dear Dry Diaries, I'm curious about Jonathan's views on manifestation. Is it
Mhm.
a real phenomenon? Or is our destiny predetermined with free will influencing whether we stray from our path?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. So I think there's a fine mixture of both, if I'm being honest, because I always say this to people, and the truth is, it's hard to tell future, and it's hard to do that because there is free will, right? There just is free will. If I tell you to go left every day, and if you go left every day, something great, whatever's going to happen, then all of a sudden there's a fucking roadblock, and you physically cannot go left, and you have to veer right. Like, that's free will. Like, you don't have any, you know, I guess, say in the matter, but I do believe if you manifest and you think of where you wanna go, and you can't like, I have to be honest, when I first started doing this, I put down on a whiteboard certain things. This is, like, years ago, and I was like, celebrities I wanna reach, shows I wanna do, like, that I didn't think was even in the ballpark for me, and I've been on those shows, and I've read those celebrities, and I wrote it down years ago. So I do believe when you put something out, and you put it in the universe, you can't plan it, but the free will move you towards that manifestation, like, it will move you there, but there is free will, and there will be bumps along the way, but you will get there. Trust me, it's been like shit ton of bumps for me. Like I probably should be rolling on the floor right now in pain from those bumps. But, I used to like have a hard time believing it. And then the other day I pulled the whiteboard out because I was cleaning, you know, I bought a house. So I was moving, stuff from one place to another. And I saw it and I was like, what the? This is from years ago and all this like crazy, just nuts. So I do believe in it.
Don't you think there's more power behind speaking or writing things than it is just saying it in your head or repeating it within yourself?
Yes, 100%. You write it, you see it, it's visual to you. Like
Mm.
that so it used to be like against my wall. So every day I would walk past it. Every
Oh,
day.
cool.
I would walk past it. So like I wrote it and then I would see it. So it's like one of those where it's like you write it, there's more power in it, you see it because you wrote it in your own handwriting. I do believe in it now, 100%.
I'm a big believer in like manifesting and affirmations. And also recently I read a book and it speaking things out to your spirit guides or angels or loved ones and them being able to hear it does make a difference than just believing. Like my mom always told me like we would be like, "Is Santa Claus real?" And she would be like, if you believe he lives in your heart, then Santa Claus is real." And and I'm
I
like,
I need to meet your
"No."
mom. I need to meet your mom.
Yeah, you do. My mom would faint if she had a reading with you.
Yeah, I'll give your mom a reading. I need to meet your mom.
She would die.
On me. I'll do it.
No, because you will be on a reading with her for 4 hours. She will talk your ear off. But
No.
yes, she will love that. Shout out to Mama Kay. She's the best.
That's awesome.
So she would be like, "If you believe in your heart he's real, then he's real." And I'm like, "No.
Literally the best.
You have to speak it out loud. Yes, you can believe things in your heart that you want to come true, but you also have to say it out loud." So,
Yeah, you have to say it. Yeah.
last question. A lot of things during our reading that we had before actually have come to fruition, which is crazy. So, basically, Jonathan told me that I would have some sort of home base, home tied to LA, but this next year I'd be doing a lot of travel and expansion and growth, which is crazy because my stuff has been in storage in LA for the past year and I traveled Europe for 6 months and met so many different people, had so many self-realizations and self-growth, which kind of led me to starting this podcast, to be honest. But now my biggest struggle is deciding where I wanna move.
Yeah.
and I'm between Austin, Nashville, and Miami.
Oh, the 3 big ones, man.
And so I was wondering, do you have any advice?
I think Nashville, honestly, is what I see.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that Texas or Miami are horrible choices. I mean, they're awesome. I
Mhm.
just see where you're gonna thrive is probably there a little bit.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you too, and we can do this off camera quickly, but, you know, what made you wanna start this? I find it amazing that you are doing this, and I was, like, super hyped when I saw it, and when you asked me, I was like, "Of course, like, I would love to come like, that'd be amazing." So, I wanna hear why you started this, like, the real,
The
like,
real reason?
I wanna know everything. I think it's awesome. I think it's truly awesome.
Thank you. So I think that this past year, especially since the last time I spoke to you, I have gone through a lot of self, and it sounds cliche, but self
No,
growth
it's not.
and just building up my confidence and really stepping into myself and embracing myself and knowing, okay, before I was doing things that I was good at as far as like social media marketing and working with brands and modeling and stuff, but I could never say I'm so excited and I know what I wanna do for a future career, and I'm always the friend that I love conspiracy theories. I love talking about like, off the wall stuff. I will investigate things at night, which is probably a bad thing and why I'm single, but I will
No,
literally
no,
just
no.
no, I'm serious. So, a lot of people would always ask me questions about that stuff, and I'd go on and on and on about it, and they're like, "Wow, that's so crazy. You have so much to talk about." And I wanted to do this honestly to do something that's bigger than myself.
Mhm.
For me, my podcast, I'm not just gonna bring on cool people that have followers. I wanna bring on people that are nobodies. Like, people have never heard of them, but they are really smart and they have a lot going on for themselves, and maybe they wouldn't have the platform to do it elsewhere. And so, yeah, that's really
That's awesome.
yeah, and I got a life coach and she really pushed me to start it, and at first I was so hesitant about it, but she was like, "No, Alex, you're gonna do this. You need to do it. I really think that this is what you're meant to do." I think for the first time, I actually feel fulfilled. I really think that this is part of my purpose.
I was about to say, it sounds like it's your purpose, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's amazing, and, like, giving people a platform is obviously just as amazing, but also, like, just you're helping people too with, like, stories. That's the thing that I find so amazing about podcasting is, like, you don't even know who you're reaching at times, right? It goes out there and you don't know, and you could really help someone in a way just from a simple conversation, someone feeling like they're your friend when they're going through something. And I think it's awesome that, it's a big thing to sit down and talk. I mean, like when I started mine, I was like sitting there, I'm like, what the am I doing? You know what I mean? I'm like straight up. I'm looking around and the producers are like staring at me. I'm like, what the am I doing here? Just it feels good to talk to someone or just to talk in general and just to help someone out. And I think it's amazing what you're doing. And I'm here to help. I want you to come on mine.
Yeah, I'd love to.
I want you to come on mine and I want you to share your story and all that stuff too. And I just be a cool conversation. But I think that'd be awesome for you to come on and talk and share your story, but then just, come on, be a friend and shit. It's such a difference and it's more fulfilling, right? Like you feel like you sat on, you had the conversation, you spoke about real things, and yeah, maybe you joke about some stuff too, but it's like you speak about truths that maybe people don't feel comfortable even like talking about, and they feel heard and seen, and that's like also such a big thing too that I think podcasting is great, and I'm so happy that you started one. I'm stoked. I'm rooting for you. Want you to come on mine. Like, I think you're gonna crush it. I really think you're gonna crush it. Yeah.
All right, Jonathan, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. And can you tell everyone where they can check you out?
Thank you for having me, and you can go to my Instagram at Jonathan Mark Medium. All my stuff is
Dry
on there.
Diaries with
Sounds
your
good.
author,
Bye,
Alex
guys.
Trebek.